All right, everybody, we should be live for our next Perceptive podcast developer interview here on the Game Wisdom channel. I'm, of course, Josh Beiser, and for tonight, we're going to be talking to a solo indie developer.
And for tonight, we're going to be talking to
It always happens with you two.
It always happens with you two.
Oh,
Sorry, I have to mute this.
yeah. YouTube likes to keep that on, like, for some reason. I always exit out of the page once I grab the chat myself.
Yeah, wait, let me see. So, chat number. So, let's see.
All right.
So, now I have the chat.
Yeah, there we go. No, the YouTube was on the audio was on his end, so we were hearing the double feedback.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to start over, and again, through the magic of editing, nobody will see this in the recorded version. All right. 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Perceptive Podcast here on Game Wisdom. My name, of course, is Josh Beiser, and we have another developer interview lined up today. My guest is a solo developer who released his first game earlier this year, Boy and Box, and we're going to talk a little bit about designing the game and what it's like to be, once again, having another solo dev on to talk about their experience. So please welcome to the stream, Gustav. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am doing all right. We're all stuck inside, as always, what seems to be the running theme for these casts in the last few weeks.
Yeah, and well, currently I'm in Sweden, or we're south of it, so it's like nothing is happening, but we're inside anyways, or
Yeah. But
being cautious.
But it's great to have you on, and thanks again for reaching out about Boy and Box a few months ago. We did play it on one of our indie spotlight streams, and it was certainly a challenging game. And I really wanted to talk to you about what kind of design this, especially was Boy and Box like your first like commercial title?
Yeah, the first commercial, or the first released title. It's like it hasn't had any very much of a commercial success, right?
Yeah.
So I'm reluctant to call it a commercial game. It's still a hobby game, right? Because I'm not relying on the game in any way. But yeah, it's pretty difficult, I guess. Should we explain what the game is about first, or?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
Like it's basically a Mario clone, except that you control a little box. So here, let's say I have a character here. Here is a little chicken. This is you. You can walk around and jump. And here is a turn around a box. And what you do is you can jump on the box, and then with your mouse you can place the box wherever you want on the screen. Mm-hmm. So you will jump on the box, then you will jump, and you will move the box simultaneously and use this, or sorry, you will have to jump first and then do that. And that's where the challenge comes. So basically you're trying to do very many things at once, and then there becomes enemies around, which if you get hit by an enemy, the screwdriver will do, you will die. So you'll have to use the box to sort of holding many things here. That's the point of the game, right? You will have to hold the box above you, for example, so that enemies can't take you. And that's pretty much it. And as you said, it gets pretty challenging by the later levels. But the thing which I want, so the reason for that is that it has, like, or first maybe I should ask you about the experience. How was like the first 10 to 15 levels, right? They weren't very challenging.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah, so those are like for learning the game. But then, like the thing is, the rest of the game could just be as challenging as that part was. But like the point of it is to use the box in new ways or different ways, without creating too many new mechanics. Like I could just make a new mechanic which uses the box in a different way. But let's see how you can use it with the existing mechanics we already have. And sort of the thing there is that for the game to progress, it has to become more challenging, sort of, right? Because otherwise, like if you make 10 levels which are the same difficulty with the same mechanics, then you really just made one level, sort of.
And the platforming design is definitely one of the. It's very, I think, underrated for a lot of people in terms of what it means to finish a completed title. Because as you said, and like I wrote my book on it with the game design deep dive platformers, that there's a lot that goes into making a game that is so skill intensive for a player. Like, you don't have the luxury of leveling up, you don't have progression systems. It's pretty much, what my mechanics are, what I can test a player with, and then as you said, if I want to add something new, I need to create a brand new mechanic or system, and I have to hopefully make sure that that works with the design.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can, you want to make as few brand new mechanics and systems as possible. Depending on what you're going for, right? If you're going for having a lot of mechanics, again, I don't really have. I'm not an expert on game design, right? But if you want to have a lot of mechanics and systems, you should do that. But if you want to make like a simple game, you should sort of see which is about one thing, maybe. Then you should sort of see how can I combine these things in as many different ways as possible.
Yep.
And sort of the way it works in one box is that the first level, you can stand on the ground and you can jump around, and you will see. And so the points of movement with the mouse, or how you should count it, is like 1 or a half, because you can stand on the ground, or 0 actually. You can stand on the ground, move the box, and then jump freely between the ground. But then on like the third level, you have to move the box, jump, and then move while in the air simultaneously. And then when there are enemies introduced, you have to move, jump, move in air, and then move again, sort of.
Yep.
And in the later level, it gets crazier than that.
Yes, it does.
but without being like a specific rhythm game, right? Where you can where it just says press this and that and that and this.
So, since this is your first time on the cast, and like we said, you are a solo developer, I guess, did you go to like any school or like take any game design courses in terms of like trying to build like your first game?
No, actually, I'm currently in second year of high school studying like math and stuff. But like how I got into game development was one Christmas, maybe 3-4 years ago, I googled how to program and watched a tutorial on like making HTML5 websites. And then I watched. This is a video I wanna. Maybe you can put the link if anyone wants to become a game developer. The link is codeyourfirstgame.com.
Okay.
With Chris Delion of Gamkedo. And it's basically how to make a game with just JavaScript, which is the programming language which you make websites with. And basically, I just learned how to make Pong from that, and then continued working on programming. And like the art and stuff, it's like pixel art because it's easy. And yeah, like sort of just doing games, basically.
Yeah, Shark and I have been talking a lot about like kind of like the first thing like for new developers, and Pong has been brought up a lot, it seems, lately in terms of kind of like the introductory design, or just something you can try and make. and
Yeah,
see, do you have a mind and an eye for programming?
yeah. It's because sort of when you try to make Pong, when you're halfway there, you will already be like, oh, I know enough. Or when you have the ball moving,
Hmm.
you will probably go and make a little other thing, which is just a lot of stuff moving around for no reason, right? And then when you learn input, or the first way I did it was that I made like buttons on the website which you clicked with your mouse, which made the paddle go up and down, because I just watched like half the tutorial, so I had gotten the input yet. Uh, but like, yeah, Pong. Maybe they ever watched Chris Dellion's tutorial. Uh, but yeah, Pong certainly is a very very
Hmm.
simple game.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
you have to start simple, like for any developer starting out. Because again, like if you were to try and make, a fully first person shooter with, real time physics as your first game, chances are
Yeah,
you're going to get completely stuck, before you even,
yeah,
make like your first character. Um, so
yeah,
with Boy and Box, how long did you actually spend developing the game for?
yeah. So when I heard you say that, I was about to get to that. Right. So you can check out the game on Steam if you want to. It's not. It's like a 2D platformer with like 50 levels.
Hmm.
So it's not. It's not. I watched your stream with some game programmer. It's not Fortnite, right? It's not an advanced 3D game, and that version of Box took about a year to make,
Hmm.
and I had been programming for 2 years before that. Uh,
Okay. I get.
so basically, but the thing is that all the mechanics of Box I could have done that after about a year of programming,
Hmm.
but you still have to learn how to scale up,
Hmm.
right? Or how you have to work on it multiple times, basically.
Hmm.
But my something to think about here is that I basically didn't do anything between summer break and winter break because I had school and stuff. So it might be shorter for anyone else trying. That time certainly could be reduced if you're doing it full time.
Yeah.
But for scale, it takes a pretty long time, and like you have to make a lot of small prototypes, and you'll throw away a lot of small prototypes. I probably have between 30 or 50, like just started doing something one day and just gave up the next day,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
in terms of programming projects, right?
Hmm. So, like as you said, Boy and Box was your first game that you tried to release commercially, but obviously you worked on smaller prototypes and other game ideas. I guess
Yeah.
what kind of made Boy and Box be like the idea that you wanted to make your first commercial game out of it?
Uh, oh, that's a good question. May Because I wanted to do something, basically, like anything is good if you want to get it commercial. So I got the idea for Box 3 years before I did it, or I made it, or sort of randomly found it while working on collision systems and testing stuff out.
Hmm.
Uh, but like, and made a lot of versions of it which weren't, like, you could argue about how good this one is, but those were definitely worse. Uh, Sort
Hmm.
of, and just making a version of Box, stopping, making another game, making a new version, leaving that, making other prototypes, and then I was like, I got to do something. So sort of decided to polish that idea a bit.
And as I said, on the stream, and as I was talking to you on email, the idea of essentially having you control two separate entities at the same time while platforming, especially at that level, is not something that we normally see before. So, I guess, what led you to wanting to make that kind of platformer with having free control over the box and having that
Yeah,
be both the puzzle solving as well as just for infinite platforming essentially.
yeah. So this is a part where I think that if you do game programming, you can come up with a lot of ideas. Because I was basically trying to learn how to make collision work in like a general way, so I could say make an obstacle here, and not just say if you go below this point, bounce upwards or something. So that I could have, I wanted to be able to place obstacles anywhere I liked on the screen in the program. And so then, just to test if it worked, I made it so that I could move the obstacle with my mouse, and then I just found out that you could jump and do this, basically. And so I made a little game with like 5 levels about that, and then left it, and did other stuff, and then did it again, and then left it, and did other stuff. And just as I went on those different prototypes, I found more things. Like maybe, for example, there are a lot of things which you just find through trying to develop. So in the first one, the box was a solid obstacle. So if you jumped up, you would bounce your head on it. But then I thought that, okay, this is annoying. So you can jump up through it, and you just land on the box, because it's really annoying when you bounce your head on it. And that led to like, okay, then you can go through it, so you could have it as a shield with an enemy on top, right? And just figuring out sort of different parts of it through each iteration. And that's the thing with, if you start with a small game, if you're trying to make your first game, if you start with a really simple concept, you'll probably be able to find more things in there, which you hadn't thought would be there, right?
Yep.
Excuse me. So like if you make a little, let's say you can jump around and shoot a bullet, and then since you're doing all the coding, you're deciding what will happen when the bullet hits something, right? And through that you can find a lot of different things. Maybe since you are in control of everything you can just decide, as you learn more things, you can put more things into your little prototype or whatever you're doing, which is small and low scale and like not even Tetris or something, and just build on it gradually, right?
Yep.
Basically.
And again, like for developers watching us right now, we're students. Like that's something that we've said many times here on the channel when we talk to more veteran developers, that you need to start, you have to be able to figure out what your game can do differently, especially with your own skill set.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of first-time students and developers will sometimes miss, that they'll just say, I want to make Mario, and that's it. Like, I just want to make Super Mario Bros. That's my game. Let me put it on Steam for $20, and we're done. But
Yeah.
you need to be able to, again, like no pun intended, you have to be able to think outside the box when it comes to, what your game idea can do differently. And it can be something just as simple as, being able to control a separate entity on the screen, or, a unique way of jumping, or anything that can just be, a qualifier to your game can work in this space.
Yeah. The thing is, like, it's sort of silly almost, because computers can do a lot more things than we currently are forcing them to do as game developers. But like, this is a sort of this is not a bad commentary about a lot of new indie games, because they are probably good. But like, it feels like there are a lot of top-down roguelikes where you shoot at enemies and go down levels for progression come out and exist on YouTube, and it feels like a lot of platformers where you run around and collect coins exist on YouTube. Again, nothing bad to say against those games. Maybe the developer, they are certainly good, and the developer probably is learning something from doing them. But like, there is a lot of weird things which you could do. Which, I'm thinking through this. I'm thinking like, okay, but maybe they won't have commercial success. But as certainly happened for this game, which I made. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's just a thought.
Yeah. And like for Shark and Chet, he's my co-host when we do some of we do our regular shows together, and we talk about game design a lot there. That
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with, again, building a Mario clone, building a Pong
No,
clone, building anything like that,
no,
if you're trying to learn, if you're trying to build your skill set.
yeah,
But as I'm sure you have, unfortunately, no doubt learned, people expect a lot more when it comes to a commercial game these days. And
yeah,
again, like we're building an entire series on that very topic about what you need to learn as a first-time developer, and it is tough. And
yeah.
with something like with Boy and Box, unfortunately, I looked at your store page last night and I saw that I think there was only like one review at the time when I looked at it.
Yeah, that was from the Easter sale.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and unfortunately, like again, like for new people tuning in, like I've spoken to indie developers for more than like 7 years at this point. So I've had a chance to speak to them who've had big success, and unfortunately, I've spoken to developers who have not. And there are so many things that can happen to a game. So
yeah,
I think, like looking at the game, there's 2 points I want to discuss with you because I'm sure you've thought about them yourself. You know, especially looking at
probably.
what people have said and things like that. Um, so the first one I think is the aesthetics or the art. As you said, pixel art is usually kept on the simplest side of things, or at least basic pixel art. I mean, we've seen amazing examples of it as well,
Yeah,
and I think one of the things that kind of hurt the game is that the screenshots don't necessarily, I think, pop as a game like to a
yeah,
commercial person.
yeah. So there are like and the reason for that is because I don't have a screenshot or
Yeah.
I didn't spend a lot of time on them basically,
Yeah.
or enough time. Uh, but sort of the thing is, I don't know how. I think there are a lot of factors. That certainly might be one. The like generally just production quality makes a game more appealing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either way. Then something which I thought about is sort of the mismatch maybe between the difficulty and the aesthetics. When I think of games like the if you've seen the trailer for The End of Nigh, The End is Nigh,
Mm-hmm.
by Edmund Macmillan. It's like die.
Mm-hmm.
What will you do? Die. What will you do? Die. What will and sort of and the platforming is very hard. It's actually, if I'm thinking from new perspective, it's probably easier platforming for a long part of the game than Boy and Box. But Boy and Box has a very cute, sort of family-friendly aesthetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that might be a bit of a like there are lots of reasons. There is no marketing for it. That's another reason at all. Like it's basically been the trying to get the Steam review system or whatever. But it's like the thing is that the reason why there isn't any marketing or any production quality is because I'm not relying on the game right now. Because I'm still in school,
Yeah.
basically. So if you're relying on making games, then you probably will check those things a lot more, and make different design decisions for get maximizing player amounts and such.
And as we've said many times here, art is kind of the necessary evil for a lot of developers.
Yeah.
You may be horrible at art. Like I am not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, but
Yeah.
if you want people to look at your game these days, if
Hire an
that
artist.
if that first screenshot is not popping for them, then you better hope you get a lot of people to talk about your game otherwise. And
Yeah.
again, like as you said, it's good to find this stuff out now when you're still in school. because I have unfortunately seen developers, in their late 20s, 30s, making their first game, not
Yeah,
learning these lessons, and it's an entirely, unfortunate, it's an entirely different ball game when you get old like that.
yeah, I can imagine.
And
Yeah, but
yeah,
so sort of for, I'm currently making a prototype, which I'm not gonna talk too much about because
hmm
it's a secret. But so, I'm not personally. I'm not going to do any art or any. If my plans go as I think they will, I will not work at all on the art for that game, and then I will get a friend who knows something about it to do the art or something.
hmm
Because you got to make it look good.
yeah. And then about marketing, again, like that is something that even like more established developers don't always think about, and it can
Yeah,
come back to kill you in a big way with any commercial game. So I
yeah,
won't put you kind of on the spot here for a second because I'm just kind of curious about how did you find my channel? Because again, I'm not good. I'm also trying to learn
yeah,
about marketing, so I'm just curious.
yeah,
Like, what did you do in terms of like looking people up, and how did you stumble upon me?
yeah. So what I did was I searched for. So I looked at this video of Game Dev Underground,
hmm
which said contact people, and so I spent about a week just, I spent a couple of days writing a very short email, uh, which uh, about with like Steam key, what the game is about in like 2 sentences or three,
hmm
and like all the information which like I could have put more information, which would have helped a lot of people, but I didn't have that, like a press kit and such. And then I just searched game review on YouTube, game review in Google, DuckDuckGo, got all the mail addresses I could. I got about 50 maybe, and just sent the email to everyone,
Okay. Well,
pretty much. And I got one response from a news writer who said he doesn't cover the game, and then I got your response.
ugh. Well, I guess I should be happy that I'm in the top 50 now. You hear that, Shark? We're now at 50th in our
Yeah.
ranking here.
Yeah.
And, now, as a little bit of advice for you, if you don't know, Rami Ishmael of Vlambeer, he has a free kind of open source press kit for any
Yeah.
indie
Exactly.
developers.
Yeah, I looked at that and then thought that, oh, that would be a huge hassle.
Uh,
But like, it's probably not very difficult. It was just that I was sort of done with the game at that point,
yeah.
and wanted to do something, but not work too much on
Mm,
it, basically,
yeah.
and just test grounds and see what happened.
Yeah.
So,
I know, Shark. That's what we need to do. We need to create some controversies. We need to get all. We gotta go viral there. And
yeah,
And like for this kind of cast, like I know this is not going to be one of our longer ones, just simply by the fact that you are a first-time developer. Like you don't have years of
yeah,
experience to share with us.
right,
But I think it's always good to talk to people starting out, talk to somebody who made their first game because, like we've said many times on these casts, like everybody has their own story, their own thoughts when it comes to designing a game, and
yeah,
like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the platforming design. That takes me to the other question I want to ask you, and that is about the difficulty of the game. And difficulty, that in of itself, that can be like a 5 to 10 hour topic. I get a lot of people
yeah,
on for it, and again, no pun intended. It is very hard to do difficulty balance, and
yeah,
with something like with Boy and Box, I would say that game it definitely falls on the harder side of things. Like this is,
yeah,
and like you said, like the game has very simple pixel graphics, like a very cute aesthetic to it, but it is brutally difficult. Like I wouldn't say it's like Kaizo difficult, but it definitely ranks up there in terms of the technical skill the game asks of the player. So
yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, like, I guess two-part question. One, how I guess what made you settle on that level of difficulty for your first game?
So the thing is that, uh, well, there are two parts. So the one thing I just want to say is that you made a very valiant effort for going that long in one sitting. Like, this is not something which you should design, but just when I designed it, I thought, okay, you should take a break here, you should take a break here, you should take a break here, and you just pushed on through it. And of course, the reason why you probably shouldn't design that way is because when they take a break, players might stop playing the game. So that's why you should, if you want players playing your game, then you should probably, this is a lesson I've learned, you should probably make it more smooth. Make it so that sort of the difficulty bumps come at very precise points where it's really interesting, maybe, or at the difficulty bumps maybe should be at a boss battle and not in the middle of somewhere. But the way that the game got so difficult is that I basically tried the first levels, and like the first levels I truly believe are very smooth. The first 10-15, you go smoothly through them, and then I basically said, what can I do? I will design a new level with like, also like, no, I didn't make this as a rule, but there are like max 3 or 4 enemies per level. So it's not like I didn't just put more enemies everywhere, but I did put blocks in certain positions to see, okay, can I make this? Okay, and then in the later levels, I would design the level first, then try about 20 times and fail, and maybe make a little adjustment, maybe get through it, and like just went on. And as I got better at the game myself, like the levels got harder because I could complete harder levels. Yeah, that's how it was. How it became so difficult, basically.
And I think, like, and I said this in my book, like, you need to, like, pacing is very tricky to do in a platform, because as you've learned, and as for us, for the people watching, like, just, a constant incline of difficulty, just keep raising that difficulty curve up and up and up, and you run to that point, unfortunately, where a lot of people are just going to stop playing your game altogether. They're going to hit that wall, and unless you're somebody like me who likes to hit their head against a wall for a lot of time, you're going to stop. And I think the one level that it really started to hit was that one where you have to make those almost pixel precise jumps. You have to like climb up, and then you have to kind of navigate a block that's bouncing from the left over to the right, so that it lands on, I think it was a switch or something, all while you're dodging, like those like thwomp style enemies like dropping down on you.
Yeah, that level. Yeah, you should take a break there. Basically, that one where it's below you and you have to do 2 things at once.
Yeah.
But the way I think about that is that it's very bad for commercial success or for maybe like casual player enjoyment. But like if I'm making a game about moving a block, like the game, there's a story in the game where you like try to save blue blobs from a plague, making them red. But like that isn't the point of the game. The point is you are moving around the block and you're jumping. And so if I'm making that game, I probably should have a level where you have to avoid things on one end and you have to move things on one end. Maybe it could be placed in a different spot, but like that level should, if the game isn't, if I'm not relying on the game for income, like I think that, and it's like sort of artsy, I think that a game about moving your block around should have that level in it, sort of. Otherwise it's not a game. Like otherwise, if the game was about saving these blue blobs from a plague like that, I don't know. I personally didn't really want to make that game. So just the thought about mine there, and that's with the later level as well. It's like if, or as I said in the beginning of the stream, if I have these sets of mechanics, and I just make the same type of level over and over and over again, I just made one level. But and this also can be maybe seen in the game, like when a new mechanic is introduced, it's a very easy level with only that mechanic. So like I added moving points, or like you collect points which are stationary and you have to get to them, but then later on the points will move around. And so first there's a level with only a point moving around, and there's a lot of ground for it, so you can easily get it. Excuse me. And then there's a level where it will fall off, so you have to be faster. And then it's that with an enemy, and then it's that with, I think it might, no, then it's a little pause, and then it's a really hard level, basically. So like, when new concepts are introduced, the difficulty sort of goes down, but then this might be something which might be changed, but then it goes up to where it was before, basically immediately or very quickly, which might be, maybe you should have a few more buffers there.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen from a lot of platformers in terms of it's not always about difficulty when it comes to platformer design. It's about being able to do different things with your various mechanics. And this is something that a friend of mine who wrote a book about Super Mario World talked about, that in terms of the difficulty curve of Mario World, it doesn't really spike in Mario World, at least not counting the Star Worlds. And what they do pretty well is just shuffle up the mechanics in different ways to make things different without, artificially or without just increasing the difficulty curve by itself. Yeah. And that was one of the things I noticed with Boy and Box, that in the beginning the jumps are kind of kept, again, with the fact you have an infinite box, you don't necessarily have to worry about pixel precise, but you're kind of given more leeway in terms of making those jumps. But as I got further in, I noticed you started to make use of a lot more pixel precise jumps, where you have to be like right on the edge when you make that jump, or you're not going to clear that gap.
The thing is that sort of gamers have different styles of jumping, and the thing which I sort of like a little bit felt sorry weird about was that, and should have redesigned in retrospect probably, is that in the game you have a lot of what's it called? It's called kangaroo time or comic time, maybe. Where if you are outside of the edge, you get 10 frames where you still can jump.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I saw on your stream that people probably play like feel games in different ways, and I saw that you didn't really feel it that way. So you checked that it was on the edge, but when I play tested the game, I've always been like outside of the platform and just not thinking about it. And this probably should have been changed in retrospect, right?
Yeah, and that's another. Unfortunately, that's another trap that I see platform developers run into, is whether or not you let the character do that little hang time in the air while they can still jump, when they go off the edge. And I think going forward, this could be a tip for you and to any developers watching. If you're going to implement that as a kind of jump in your game, then you need to set up a section that is explicitly designed to force a player to do that, so they know that is an option. I played the game Loot Box Life. This was another platformer, I think last month or the month before that, and they do a really good job of forcing you into situations where they prove to you, hey, you can do a fall over the edge and then you can still jump kind of maneuver.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of those challenges, and this is something I wanted to ask you about Boy and Box. I think I know the answer to this one, but in terms of playtesting, did you have a chance to show the game to anyone else or get feedback from friends or family?
Yeah, so I had the reason this might be correlated. The reason why the first 10-50 levels are very smooth is that I've showed it to a lot of people for a very short time. So we've been the family's been at a dinner, and I go hey kids, do you want to test the game? And then they play it for a while, and I check, okay, this can be changed, this can be changed, this can be changed. Then I have one friend who completed the game, and a couple others who got very far, and so that might be why the later levels are sort of less tested for, maybe. And about that coyote time, maybe also if you work with what I'm thinking now is that you should test your game without the coyote time and then add it later, maybe. Then you're not testing with the correct field, so that might be bad. And maybe just introduce it. I don't know. Yeah, so the testing has been like basically during breaks at school, getting someone to try, and then they don't have a lot of time. So like they get a certain way into the game, and then like, okay, now I know. They don't.
Yeah. And it's tough to find good playtesters. A lot of developers think, "Oh, I'm just going to show it to my family and 5 friends, and that's all the feedback I need." And unfortunately, as a shark in chat's probably going to nod his head to, that is not the case. You need a lot of people of varying skill levels to really, get a all-encompassing viewpoint as to what your title is going to do. And again, like, I don't want to sound like I'm, calling you out or stuff like that, but I could definitely tell that as I got further in, like, the level difficulty really began to spike. I think I'm trying to remember what level I kind of raised the white flag on. And I think
the second last level, actually.
Of course. Always one off when it comes to anything in these games. 99% chance of hit, I will still miss. Yeah, like I think if I remember right, that was one when you had to like get the blob, maneuver them with your own box, get them to go off an edge, and you have to drop down, create the box to get a platform, get through a gap, all before that enemy goes off screen and then respawns and hits you while you're in the middle there.
Yeah, and do it 4 times, right?
Yeah. Because one time wasn't hard enough. We have to.
Yeah, but there was a level earlier which did it 1 time. So if I'm doing a later level, I have to do it 4 times, right? At least when you get to level 50, it's got to be hard.
And it is again. Sorry, my headset went out again. Like I was saying, it is very hard when you're trying to make like the penultimate and ultimate challenge in these games. And I guess here's a question for you. As you were saying earlier, in terms of trying to come up with mechanics or what you wanted to add more in the Buoyant Box, that from like a basic standpoint, the mechanics of the game didn't really change. You didn't get new abilities, you didn't get, stuff like that. Just like what obstacles you put at the player. Were there earlier prototypes in the game that introduced like new, moves or new skills for the player to make use of? Okay.
No. There's just new like, so kind of, right? The way the box work changed throughout the game. So in the first, but there never was a progression system of your abilities. It was just that your abilities changed a little bit from prototype to prototype. So like in the first part, like the box didn't even interact with enemies at all, because as a new game dev, you might be like, what should it? And you're not using a engine, so it's not fixed automatically. You're like, wait, should that interact with enemies? No, I don't know. Or you're not even thinking about it, right? And it's like, oh, and now I can do this and this and this. Now instead of the enemies being stuck on a trail, maybe they should be jumping, because that will lead to more interaction, for example.
And the enemy design I thought was kind of interesting, because it really does play into the difficulty of the game, that the blobs that actively track you kind of become a puzzle in of themselves, because I remember I got stuck on a few parts like that.
Yeah. So the thing with those is that you can pretty much, like the levels where those are in, you can pretty much just stop. Where if you figure this out, you can just stand still wherever you want and hold the box in a certain position, so they just jump on it. But because of the way, like maybe psychology work, you get stressed and you sort of speed through them either way. or you take a lot of time to figure out like how is this actually working. But when you've played through it enough, you can see like, okay, this is just, I'm very safe in these levels. What, like the enemies are literally chasing you, but you can trap them very easily. So
yeah. And I guess were there any elements or things that you thought of for Boy and Box that you wanted to put into the game that either for time or just not able to figure it out were left out of the finished game?
Like I know that a lot of like pretty much just polish, like a level select system, maybe some nice settings, and maybe a different way of how you go through the levels. But like mechanics wise, I was really just like trying to come up with things. It was harder to find out new things because I was trying to limit. Like I did a lot of weird things with like water and stuff, but that doesn't really play into the box since it's like small, so water will just pour around it. And like some enemies have like rockets on them and fly, and like that didn't feel well, or that didn't fit. But like if anything, it's just make it more of a real game. Basically, because I sort of want it to be simple and not have a lot of things in it.
Yeah. And like you said, like this was not designed. This was not your attempt at, making like a fully big budget game. This was something
No.
that you weren't relying on. Oop, I think I
No.
lost. Oh, there you go. Now you're back. Like this was not something that you were relying on, as your income for the next few years.
No, it was very much just seeing. Well, what you could do with a boy in the box, or whatever, pretty much. And then, like, as I said, it would have been really nice to make it like to have a lot of playtesters, or to fix up the art in a really nice way, or make all these different things. But then the game probably wouldn't be done right now, and I would be still working on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm really enjoying the new game which I'm working on, so I'm sort of happy that Boy Box is like done and a package by now, pretty much. And that's like that's one thing. If there are people listening, like sort of try to make, at least get the things you're working on to like where you can say that they are packaged, and like you don't have to spend active time thinking about them. If you're making if you've just been working for a couple of years, like try to do new things, and learn how to do different stuff.
Yeah. And I guess like for your next game, like again, you don't have to reveal here. Is it going to be a platformer or will it be another genre?
It's going to be a platformer, but. And it's like it's gonna sound like it's similar, but it's not really. But now you can change the entire world in a very with like and the thing about it is that it's one single key press, which activates a mode which makes your regular moving things, and you don't have to click on things. It will work on a controller, which I believe is the most nice part about it. But basically, you will change the entire world, and it will be. I'm not going to rely on this for profit either, probably. So it's going to be a very puzzly, artsy kind of game, pretty much.
And actually, that I'm glad you mentioned that, because that actually took me to one other question that I wanted to ask. Why? Like normally when we see 2D platformers, they are gamepad first, keyboard second. So I was just wondering, like, why? Obviously, again, with the whole box mechanic, like you needed the fidelity of the mouse. But did you thought about making it or trying gamepad compatibility with it?
I thought about it a lot, and I thought that it would be so bad that I didn't even try it. Maybe I could have tried it and it could have worked, but like then you would have to. If I'm thinking about it, the box would be active all the time. And the way you would move is like it's like you're holding down your mouse,
Mm-hmm.
because jumping with one,
Yeah.
like maybe the thing is as well that if you release the A button to move the right joystick, your jump is going to be shorter, which is not ideal. Maybe you could, and then the other option is like you can press X and then you move the box, but then you can't walk at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're just using the left stick.
Yeah.
So I would have really liked to make it controller viable, because I feel a little bit like, I don't know if hypocrite is the right word, but I really hate it when games that I play don't have controller support, and I made a game which doesn't have controller support. But that's just sort of because, like, it was made with a mouse, and then it will die with a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
And Shark asks, do you ever think about expanding your main mechanic to where you could have like 2 boxes on screen, or where the box have some kind of like effect to them?
A little bit. But then, sort of, if the box has effects and the 2 boxes, then, like, I'm not saying it could probably be very interesting, but then you're getting power-ups, and I sort of didn't want you to get any power-ups. Because the only thing, it was sort of interesting that the only thing which was your progression was your skill level. Because when you've gotten through, like, you hit a very hard level, and then you try it maybe 20 times or 30 times on it, but when you've done the level, and through repetition, like, just through that one level, the previous level would have been so much easier through the work you gained, or the experience you gained from that. So the reason there's no effects on the box, which could have been cool, is just because I didn't want any power-ups. Maybe there could be fun atmosphere, like environmental things, maybe. So like there's a powder or a gas, which if the box interacts with it, it gets a power-up, maybe. Now that I'm thinking about it, that might have been cool. But I don't know.
Again, you never.
This is the thing, right? Because if you're making a small game, you can always iterate on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can always keep iterating on it. So start with a small game, because there are, like, you might think that like, this is a stupid game, it doesn't do anything, but you can always add stuff, right, and test if it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, like, there's always things you can go for. Didn't mean power-ups, he meant like as like stages, like where you could introduce something that could maybe make the block bouncy for a stage, or spiky for a stage, or something like that.
Like Braid, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't played Braid when I made the game, so I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah, that could have been interesting.
Again,
no, I never thought about it. That's a great idea, Sharky.
I mean, again, like, we can sit here and come up with mechanics, until
And then I have a month more to make the game, and then I have a month more again to make the game, and then I have to make music for those new stages and art for those new stages.
Yeah. But it's always, again, like, something you can look into and, again, iterate on with future titles, because that is a very important point about being a developer, being able to iterate and evolve your design as you become more skilled and more knowledgeable in the process.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I think with that, I don't think I really have too many other questions for you. Again, it's always nice to talk to first-time developers just to kind of see where things are at or what's happening. I guess you mentioned the video earlier from Game Keto. Are there any other like resources that you used, like kind of as a first developer, to kind of like get your feet wet with designing Boy and Box?
Yeah. So the first. Like, there are different. That it depends on what you're doing, right? Because Game Keto, they gave me like the ground start, but then there's like there is whatever language you decide to program in. There's a website where you learn like different programming parts, like how to interact with the mouse, how to draw an image, how to do all these things. So, but that's just pretty much search. How do I draw image in C, or how do I draw image in Python, or whatever, and then look for that. But for game design, like for the most part, I was just doing my own stuff.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I'm looking at. Oh, sorry, Mark Brown. Look at Mark Brown's channel. It's very great, very good, because like the not as much hot take, not as much new videos. Look at the old videos of Mark Brown, or like well, maybe I'm just not interested in the new videos because I've like gone past that, or maybe I haven't. Whatever. Like look at there are a lot of channels on YouTube which have videos about how to make a little about general the game design concepts, and then there are a lot of like follow along tutorials. I don't know. Like I think that you should try to figure stuff out, and then if you get stuck, maybe you watch one of those. I think it's like there are probably a lot of people who have done it. I don't know about that, but like I don't think you should just follow along a tutorial. You should try things for yourself, because then you will learn them, or you will have to learn them. And then when you get stuck, like think about it for a while, Google a lot of stuff, and like switch project, Google some more, return, and then fix it basically. And just if you are like if you think that you will rely on your game for financial success, like at least work on it, at least know how to make games for a year or 2 years. Basically, like don't start making games and quit your job. Get good at making games and make a game. Make the game which makes money, then quit your job.
There you go.
there you go. Don't quit your job before, unless you well. Here comes the thing where I don't have any experience and maybe shouldn't make such statements unless you hate your job or whatever. Yeah.
All
And
right.
you're certain that your idea is the perfect one, then you should definitely quit your job, because it will become a success.
Of course it will, right, Shark?
Yeah.
All right. But I think with that, let's wrap things up for this chat. Gustav, it was a pleasure hanging out with you. It's my evening. I'm sure it's probably far later where you're at right now.
It's half past 20 past 11 over here.
All right, yeah. So let us wrap things up for tonight. Thank you again for getting in touch, and again for wanting to come on and talk about the game.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And hopefully, as for the future, like for people who need help with game design tips, be sure to check out this channel as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. By the way, the best channel on YouTube is, of course, Game Wisdom.
Thank you.
Yes.
But it would, like I said, it was great being able to play your game. For any developers watching this, we are always looking for new indie games to look at for our weekly showcase streams. Again, please get in touch. I will always try to respond to emails sent to me or messages on Twitter or anything like that. And I guess for you, again, you say you didn't do too much in terms of marketing, but any social media, anything like that you would like to plug before I let you go for tonight?
I could, but I'm not active on any social media.
Okay.
Follow my Steam page. That's all I can say. Wishlist the game and wait for a sale.
All right.
That's it. Or you can follow the Twitter. Maybe I will put something up in a couple of years. At Asheepun. ASHEEPUN. Yeah. That's it.
All right. Well, with that, again, best of luck with your next project. And we'll see how things develop. But again, thank you for coming on, and have a great rest of your night.
Yeah. Thank you too.
All right. So, for the people watching, we are going to end things here for this week's cast. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at GWBicer, and we have our Discord channel linked down below. That's open to everybody to check out if you want to hang out, talk game design, or ask me design questions. And if you are a developer working on a game, or would like to just come on and talk about design, we are always looking for new guests, so feel free to get in touch. Well, for the live folks, we'll be back later time for our regular game streams, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. Have a great night, and we will see you all next time. Take care.